Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm teacher Meng here. All right, glad to see all of you have joined me today. All right, so I'll be sharing with everyone, the tips for PSLE and what to expect for the upcoming PSLE Science exam. Okay, yeah. So if during this session, if there are any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Feel free to ask in the Q&A. Okay, I will be here to answer your questions. Okay, so just ask me anything regarding science. All right. So let me share the screen here. It's very important that all of you have I'm glad that all of you have joined, and it's very important to know what to expect in this upcoming year and the PSLE exam, right? Because this is an important milestone for your child. Okay, or if you're a student here, then for yourself, okay, you need to know what is coming. Okay. So let me share my screen. All right. Now, so this is today our session will be on science, right? And science is something that your child or you yourself as a student have learned since P3, okay? And this will be your fourth year learning science, all right? And it's very important to ask yourself every day, what are some things that you can explain using science? Because that's what science is all about. Okay, science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Okay, this is a quote from Rosalind Franklin. All right, so she was a brilliant scientist that helped to discover the shell of DNA, and it's about the quality of a person. Okay, when you study science or any other subject, right, you must work very hard. Okay, it's not that you face some difficulty and you stop working hard. Okay, so you have to try to overcome that difficulty and continue to persevere. Okay, and everyday life, okay, you should try to link science to try use science to explain what you see. Okay, because basically that is what science is about. Okay, so for example, right, Chinese New Year is coming, right? And maybe your parents have for those who bought the Mandarin orange. Now, because there are so many oranges, right, in one whole carton, one whole box, what will you do to the oranges? Most likely you put them in the refrigerator, correct? Because there are so many, right? You're scared that they might spoil by the time Chinese New Year is here. It's about 2 weeks time, right? Okay, so what is the reason we do that? So you have to think about all this. What is the scientific explanation to our actions? Okay, and how to use science to explain them. Right, so why do we put it in the fridge? Students who are around here, maybe you let me know why do we want to put the oranges into the fridge or any fruit? Okay, doesn't matter if it's Chinese New Year or not, but any fruit that buy in a large amount, you put it in the fridge. Why would we want to do that? Keep it longer, correct? But what is the scientific explanation for that? Thanks for the response anyway. Right, so we want to talk about the scientific response. So that's okay. So one of you mentioned less. Okay. So less, more. Okay, there are different answers, correct? Okay, good. So I'm just reading some of your responses. Some of you said that so less mold can grow or slow down ripening. Okay, also true. Decrease of temperature decreases reproduction of bacteria and fungi. Yes. Maintain the freshness of fruit and bacteria will not grow. Okay, so great. Yeah, it will not turn bad. Right. The oranges will lose heat slower and get spiked. Lose heat slower. Okay, this one not true. Okay. Spoil slower, yes. Okay. So uh, when they spoil, that means that there are bacteria, there are mold or fungi growing on the fruit. Okay, so when we put it in the fridge, what is the condition that is inside the fridge? Okay, some of you told me that okay, less mold can grow. What is the reason? So you must talk about the fridge, right? What is inside the fridge? Why you put it inside the refrigerator is that the temperature is low. So you are missing that gap, you see? So when you write all these answers in your open-ended correct coder, okay, you write all these answers in your structured question or open-ended questions, you must cover all the gaps. Okay, so when you write an answer, you must always double check. You read your answer, you read the question again, and see whether you have answered the question. Is there any gaps in between? Okay, so let's see if the question was explain why uh, fruits are stored in the refrigerator. And if you simply just says that it doesn't spoil so easily, then what is the science inside this? Okay, it cannot be a common way of explaining it. It must be scientific way of explaining it. So yes, it's gonna spoil slower, but why? Okay, so you must tell me that temperature is low. Correct. Okay, so the temperature is low and it slows down the reproduction or the reproduction of the bacteria and the fungi. So the fruit does not spoil so easily. So you see that I have no gaps, right? Okay. So between putting in the fridge and the food spoiling, I have explained that temperature is low, and I have explained the effect of that. The decomposers reproduce slower, and therefore the fruit does not decompose so easily. It will decompose slower. Okay. So whenever you all write your answers, like I said, read your answer, read the question, and check if you have missed out anything. Okay, you must cover all the gaps step by step. All right. So thanks for all your responses. Okay, mostly good, but you all have to, add in all these scientific concepts. All right. Great. Now, just one thing. Now, how you phrase your answer also very important. So as I read some of your responses, some of you wrote that bacteria does not grow. Bacteria does not grow in the refrigerator. Is that actually true? So that's another problem. All right. So other than checking whether you have covered all grounds, whether you have covered all the gaps, you must also make sure what you have written down is scientifically sound. All right. I put the fruit in the refrigerator. Does it mean that it will never spoil? Or it just means that it will spoil slower? Okay. So it will spoil slower means that bacteria can still grow, fungi can still grow, right? Because it's decomposing. Okay. So it's not that it does not grow, it's just that it's slower. Okay. They reproduce slower. Okay, even food placed in the freezer, some amount of bacteria can still grow, just that a lot slower. Okay, so it's not that they do not grow at all. Okay, they do not reproduce at all. All right, unless it's extremely cold. Okay, refrigerator or the freezer is not going to prevent food from spoiling. Okay. It's just to take longer. All right, so that's very important. So other things like, okay, that is just one example. So it could be any other things that's around you, and you try to use science to explain. And you explain maybe to your family member and try to explain explain in detail, okay, and make sure you don't miss out any gaps. Like for example, okay, we do laundry, right? And we hang the laundries up. Okay, the way you fold your laundry, the way you hang your laundry is going to affect how fast they dry. Okay, so a lot of all these things are scientific concept, right? If you fold it more, what is that factor that is smaller? Okay, or if you did not fold it as much, what is the factor that allows it to dry faster? Okay, you know what is this factor that I'm talking about? The slides are not moving yet. I'm just speaking. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, I'm just giving you some examples on how you can relate science to your daily life. Yes, exposed surface area. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. So all these things around you, you can explain them using science, and that no constant revision of all these science concept is going to help. It's going to help you do better for your science. Okay. Great. Thanks for all the responses. Yeah, exposed surface area. Exposed surface area is a common tested topic. It can test in different topics, such as digestive system. Okay, you chew your food multiple times. Why do you do that? Okay, and rate of evaporation of water. Okay, etc. Okay, these are different ways to test exposed surface area. Right. Now, so let's talk about the PSLE science. So the PSLE science assess students' understanding and application of the scientific concept in the real world context. Okay, why I talk about all those things is because No, last time PSLE paper, a lot of that is really just from the textbook, what's the concept, and then you just memorize. Nowadays, a lot of questions are more relatable. Sorry. A lot of them are related to, real world context. Be it, for example, okay, last time during COVID period, right, we wear the mask. And then it asks you, why does okay, for those who wear spectacles, when you wear the mask, why does the spectacle get fogged up? Okay, that is because we exhale water vapor, which is warmer, and then come in contact with the cooler spectacles, and then it causes the condensation to occur. So all these are scientific ways to explain what is happening around us. Okay, so that is what the PSLE paper has become, more and more relating to what is happening around us. Okay, other than just memorizing or understanding the concept. Okay, you must be able to relate that. It's like application. Okay. So for this PSLE, okay, what you need to focus on is really, of course, you must fully understand all the scientific facts. Okay, you learn a new topic. Okay, for P6 students, right? Most of you are most likely learning maybe photosynthesis. Okay, some of you might be learning forces. All right, some of you are learning energy. So different schools teach different topics for the first one, right? It doesn't matter. So whichever topic you are learning now, make sure you have a complete grasp of these scientific concepts. If let's say there is something that you're not sure, always check with your teacher, right? Because you must fully understand all these science concepts before you can apply them well. Okay? So it's not just about memorizing. It's about fully understanding it. Because if you understand, then there's less memorizing to do, right? Because if you memorize them, then all you know is just the fact, but you didn't truly understand what is happening. Okay, so that is not going to help you. Okay, so once you have mastered each of these concepts, now then you can apply to all the new situations that you see. But actually, some of these are not so new. Okay, new as in maybe you're not so familiar. But with sufficient practice, okay, before the PSLE paper, right, with sufficient practice, okay, a lot of these questions are not so new because you have gotten enough exposure. Okay, you have gotten enough exposure to all the different type of questions for whichever topic. And when you see the PSLE paper, okay, you have already seen similar question. So this new is not so new because whatever they can test is mostly things that have already been tested. There could be one or two that are really new, okay, if they're creative, okay, but a lot of times is things that you have kind of done before, okay? Now, when you do all these science questions, because science, we have experiments, okay? We have a lot of information, data, so you need to look at the pictures, look at tables, look at graphs, okay, and decipher all the information there. All right, so all this requires process skills. And actually, when you all read all this uh go through analyze the picture, table, and graph, you are already applying all your process skills. And then when you answer the question, depending on what the question is, right? They could ask you to predict, they could ask you to explain, they could ask you to suggest possible answers. Okay? They could ask you to write down a hypothesis. Hypothesis is like a guess of the result. Okay? Okay, they could ask you to communicate what you find in the data. So all these are process skills. Okay, and when you do all these experiment-based questions, you're already applying them. Okay, but you must practice enough to master them. Okay, now let me ask you. Okay, I think I have a few questions in the Q&A. Oh, okay. One of you asked, when will the preparation segment start? Preparation segment. What do you mean by preparation segment? How to prepare for PSLE? I will come to that maybe in the midpoint. Okay, now maybe you let me know which section do you find more important? A, B, or both? Okay, All right, great. Now, I see a lot of you say it's booklet A. Actually, there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, this is really in your opinion. Just want to see what you all find generally. A good percentage of you said both. A lot of you wrote booklet A, which makes sense. Okay, do you all know what is the number of marks for MCQ now? Do you know? I think all of you are well informed, huh? Yes, correct. 60 marks. I'll come to that. Okay, I'll talk about the marks in a while. Okay, so a lot of you choose booklet A. That's because now out of 100 marks, now MCQ has a 60% of the whole paper. Okay, so that's why it's important. All right, and some of you wrote both A and B. Yes, definitely. Right, because if you don't score well for B also, then there goes your AL 1 to 4. Okay, which are very good scores. Okay, so there's really no right or wrong answer. It's really to see what you feel is the most important. So let's talk about the booklet. Now, I think all of you are well informed. Okay, but just to let parents and students who still do not know this, okay, for PSLE 2025, MCQ was there were 28 MCQ questions leading up to 56 marks. But in this new year, 2026, then it has changed. It has increased to 30, right? And total mark is 60 out of 100. And there's a decrease in number of marks for the structured questions, the open-ended questions. Okay? And number of questions also decreases to 10 to 11. Okay? But number of marks per question still did not change. It's 2 to 5. Okay, depending on how much they want to test you. All right, so you can see that for MCQ is 60 marks. Okay? So that's a great percentage. All right. So, and what do you know about the number of marks for each MCQ question? Right? Each question is actually 2 marks. So it is very important to be able to do an MCQ well. And later I will tell you what are the ways to score as high as possible for MCQ as well as the structured questions. Okay, because each question is 2 marks, and if you make a mistake, you are careless, you read the question too fast, then you will lose the 2 marks per question easily. And you know how many MCQs you need to get wrong to become AL2. Let's say assuming your structured question is full marks, you get full 40. AL2 is 90, right? Alright, you just need to get 5 MCQ wrong, and your AL1 is gone. Okay, we'll talk about that in a while. Okay, but just let you know that it's very important to get full marks or as high as possible for the MCQ. Okay, you do not want to be careless in MCQ. Okay, one very good question. Should I attempt section B first, then section A? My suggestion is do section A first. Okay, why is that so? Now, very importantly, remember section A, you need to do the question, you need to shape in the OAS. Okay, and it is 60 marks. So you should try to do MCQ first. And some of the MCQs are really easy. Some of them are really easy. Okay, you can take it as like a warm up to do the structured questions. All right, and score as high as possible, 60 marks, as high as 60 marks. Okay, and because you only have 1 hour 45 minutes, okay, you need to manage your time well. Okay, I'm going to show you this slide first. So this is now the current format. This is now the current format. Okay, so to prevent confusion, this is now the current one. 60 marks for MCQ, 40 marks for structured questions. All right, so you must okay, my suggestion is to do MCQ first. You score that 60 marks first, okay, then you talk about the structured questions. Because why? Some of the structured questions are quite long answers or long question even. And if you spend too much time writing all those answers, and then in the end you don't have enough time to do your MCQ, you shade wrongly, then it's game over. Okay, so make sure you score the low hanging fruit first in the MCQ. Score that 60 marks or 50 something marks, okay, as high as you can. Okay, then go to structured questions because some of the answers can be quite long, and it could only be 2 marks, and 2 marks is just one MCQ. Okay, so it's more it makes more sense to do MCQ first because you need to do question. Each question is 2 marks, and you still need to shade correctly. Okay, so you talk about the individual exam technique for MCQ and structured questions. Okay, now overview of the syllabus. Of course, when you go for the PSLE, you must know your syllabus very well. Okay, by now, okay, now you are in P6, right? So these are the topics that you are learning. Some of you have learned photosynthesis in P5. May I just know how many of you learn photosynthesis in P5? There are actually some schools that teach photosynthesis in P5. Are there any of you who learn photosynthesis in P5? Photosynthesis, you must know what I'm talking about. When you learn photosynthesis, it means that you learn about the factors that affect rate of photosynthesis. Okay, it's not just the general idea of photosynthesis. Okay, you have gone through experiments to learn what are the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, a lot of students will tell me yes, yes, but actually they did not because they are confused with. Okay, this is an actual chapter in itself, otherwise called energy in food. Okay, if you are learning that now, energy in food, some of you learn this in P6, some of you learn it in P5. Okay, so I see some of you said yes, you have learned it in P5. Most likely end of P5. So there are actually some who are learning that in P5. Okay? Yeah. Hold on, let me check the Q&A. One of you were asking, so the marks changed last year and this year? No. Last year was the previous one. So this year is the new exam format. Okay? This year is the new exam format. Okay, one of you were asking about the time. Yes, I forgot to talk about the time for each one. Hold on. Okay, I just go ahead for a while very quickly. So we have 1 hour 45 minutes for your exam. Okay, and as told you to do, my suggestion, right, is to do MCQ first. But how long should you spend in MCQ? Now, you actually only have 60, sorry, you have 30 questions. You should spend a maximum of 45 minutes. Maximum. Nothing more than that. And these 45 minutes include doing, checking, and shading. Okay? So you must do the question, you want to check, and then you shade. Okay, check means you go through the question again. Or you can do first, you shade, and then finish all the MCQ, do one round of checking. But that should only be a maximum of 45 minutes, nothing more than that. Then the remaining 1 hour, okay, even though it's more time, catered for 40 marks, but because you have more writing to do. Okay? And that's my suggestion to you. Alright. So some of you have learned photosynthesis. Why is that so? Because right, some schools teach slightly ahead. Okay, I know that now P6 is the new syllabus and photosynthesis is actually in the P6 textbook. Okay, but there are schools that actually taught photosynthesis earlier. Okay, because there will be a lot of revision right after the WA2, the mid-year checkpoint. Okay, so because remember, right, both lower block and upper block, or rather P3 to P6 topics are all tested for the PSLE. Okay, do not go and forget your P3 to P5 topics, because everything is tested. You cannot be choosing topics. Okay, so there will be quite a number of revision before the PSLE. and time is going to pass very quickly. Okay, so some schools teach earlier so that they have more time for revision. Okay, but it really depends on your school. Okay, so as mentioned, right, there are upper block and lower block topics. Lower block is P3 and P4, right? P3 and 4. And that's about 30% of the PSLE paper. Okay. And for upper block, P5 and P6 is about 70%. Okay. Now, and if you realize the PSLE paper is split 50-50, life science and physical science, which is biology and physics. Okay, life science topics are those that deal with living things, such as characteristics of animals, such as fungi, such as bacteria, such as reproduction in plants, etc. Okay, and your adaptations and so on. So that's about 50% of the paper. And for physical science, it's the forces, energy, electricity, water, and so on. So it's actually split. First half is life science, second half is physical science. Okay, for both MCQ and open-ended. Okay, but that is just for you to know. Essentially, nothing has changed for you. Just do it like a normal paper, okay? There's no need to go and choose life science or physical science to do first. Okay? Right. So I just want to find out from everyone here, which topic do you find the most difficult? Based on, yeah, just name me the topics that you find the most difficult. From any level, okay? Maybe from P4 you have some topic that you are not too sure, like for example, metal. Or if you are struggling with electricity, some of you might be struggling with electricity in P5. Okay, so name me two topics that you find that are most difficult. Yeah, see, metal. So some of you find metal difficult. The one that where you learn definite shape, definite volume. Okay. Yeah, just let me know. Okay, I see some reproductive system. Reproductive system. I'll take it as that is for plants or human reproductive system. Okay, human reproductive system not so crucial. Okay, not so crucial. Later I'll tell you why. Reproduction in animals. Hmm. Human system. Human system is quite broad. We have reproductive, we have circulatory, we have respiratory. Okay, matter and electrical. Electrical system is electricity, depending on how they want to call it. Yes. Energy conversion, okay. Photosynthesis. Okay, I'm seeing quite a lot of different answers. Okay, for those who find difficult or yeah, most difficult. Okay, cells cells are not tested anymore. Actually, this one I need to remove the cells. Yeah, cells is no longer tested in the uh PSLE this year. Okay, so there's no more cells. I want cancer. So forgot to update this. Okay, so cells is no longer tested. All right, so don't worry about cells. Yeah. What is more important is the reproduction in plants. Okay, so you see, right, all of you have identified like some of these topics that you are not sure with, you have more difficulties learning that topic. So my question to you is, what have you done? Okay, because you can tell me that, okay, you have gone through the list of topics and you have told me that, okay, these are topics that you're struggling with, you find the most difficult. Okay, and maybe perhaps you did not do so well for these topics last time. So, my question to you is, what have you done to make them not so difficult? Have you done anything? Okay, so this is already a time for you to think about it. Okay, we still have a runway until the PSLE. You have to start revising all this. Yes, adaptation is tested. Okay, you have to start revising all these topics, especially these ones that you have mentioned that you find the most difficult. And because it's the most difficult, you might uh you might fear studying this topic. You might be afraid to study the topic, but that shouldn't be the way. In fact, you should be trying to tackle it and make sure it's no longer the most difficult. Okay? That is the way to study. You find, okay, let's say you find electricity difficult. Then you have to do more practice on electricity and not saying, it is so difficult, I don't want to study that. But that is not how it works. Okay, you cannot be choosing topic because electricity is definitely going to be tested. And if you don't study that, then you will lose that good 8 to 10 marks maybe. Okay? So make sure you go and tackle some of these most difficult topic that you face and make sure they are no longer so difficult. And then you move on to the next most difficult one. Okay? Yes, everything else is everything is tested actually. There's no choosing topics anymore, okay? Living together, adaptation, they are all tested. The only one that is not tested is cells because cells is already removed from the syllabus. Okay? Not tested this year. And for subsequent years, okay? Because it has been removed from the PSLE Science syllabus. So for the subsequent years, cells is not tested anymore. Okay? Yeah, so later I'll share some tips with everyone, like how do you all revise and everything, okay? Great. Now, so since we are talking about all these topics, and some of you are telling me that, oh, you have difficulty in matter, you have difficulty in electricity, reproduction. Okay, let's look at in the past few years, how are these topics being tested? Okay? Not exactly showing you the question now. I'm showing you the amount of marks for each of these topic and what are those that you must focus on. For example, now you may find that diversity of living things is like the most basic one, P3, first few topics. But you can see, right, on average is 8 marks. And that is quite high, Okay? So you must know like all the different characteristics of different animal groups, fish, reptiles, amphibian, mammals, etc. Okay, you must know all these concepts, how to differentiate them. It may seem like it's the most basic one because it's the first thing you learn in science. First few things you learn in science. Okay? But if you neglect this and you forgot some of this when you go for the exam, then you will be losing marks. Okay? Like for example, right, I give you one example. Uh, Reptile and fish. What are their outer covering? Are they the same? Exactly the same? What are the outer coverings of reptiles and fish? It's just something to, test everyone here quickly. Yeah. So you must know that there is a difference. There is a difference. Okay. Generally, you can call them skills. But even if they are skills, the skills are not the same. Okay, the skills are not the same. You can simplify it as reptiles having, sorry, you can simplify it as reptiles having dry scales and fishes having slimy scales. And that is still, these characteristics can still be differentiated. Okay, even though generally both are called scales, but in fact they are not the same type of scales. Okay, and some of you said reptiles have scaly skin, also can. Or you can dry scales also can. Okay? Or dry skin with scales, right? So they are different from the slimy scales of the fishes. So you must know this is also a characteristic that you can differentiate. You can differentiate between reptiles and fish. Okay? So this is something that you must know because there are some of you who wrote they are the same, but they are not. Even though both are called scale, the scales are different. Okay? Slimy or wet scales, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, now talking about okay, that is just the first one, right? So we want to focus on those topics that are highly tested. But I'm telling you that you have to study all because you do not know what's going to be tested. But I can tell you that some things are not so important, but everything must still be studied. For example, okay, you look at life cycle of plant, it's barely tested. Okay, reproduction in animals, the different parts of the reproductive system, for male and female, actually not so much tested. But I'm not saying that it's not going to be tested. It's just that over the years it hasn't been tested much. It's not so important, but you must still study for it. Okay, but you must place more focus in others like reproduction in plants, water, okay, condensation. Some of you face difficulty in matter. Even 4 marks is quite a lot. Okay, these are just some examples. Okay, you see sometimes for reproduction in plants, 9 marks, 8 marks. This includes MCQ and open-ended, right? Okay, so MCQ, each question is already 2 marks. So that is quite a lot. Okay, moving on to other topics. You see, a lot of these are not so crucial. You see, all these are not so crucial. But you must still know them. Okay, like for example, circulatory system. They ask you to explain for heart rate increases during exercise. You must still be able to write it up, because if you don't, if you can't, okay, then you will lose that 2 marks. Okay, now cells is no longer tested, so this is fine. Look at electrical system or electricity. 9 marks. It was 9, 12, 10. Last year was 5. Okay, who knows this year is what? But generally, it's quite high. So you must go and master electrical systems for P5 topic. You must go and revise heat, temperature. Okay? Energy. Okay, I'm just highlighting some of these important ones. Alright. Showing you the rest. Look at forces, 10 marks. Okay? So all these topics must be studied. I'm not saying that neglect everything else. Okay, it's not. Okay, you must make sure you study everything also. Just highlighting some of the more important ones. Okay? Right. So yeah, let me see some of these questions. Will there be exams or tests taken in March? Yes, of course. We will have our mid-year checkpoint in week 20 something. Okay, so the teachers will inform the students. Yeah, we have mid-year for P6 students, right? We have mid-year checkpoint. We have the prelim exams. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the last slide here, William. Yes. So let me read through some of your Q&A. Yeah, we have exam papers, and after the mid-year checkpoint will be a lot of revision, topical based revision in my stretcher. Yes. Before we do the prelim exam paper. Okay. Yep. How much? Okay, one of you is asking how much time should I spend on checking? Uh, so right, just now I said 45 minutes for MCQ. Okay, 45 minutes for MCQ. There are 30 questions. 30 questions. So if let's say each question you spend 10 minutes, sorry, 10 minutes. Each question you spend 1 minute on average. So that would be 30 minutes doing. And includes shading. So this is doing uh yeah, doing plus shading. So I would expect your checking should be 15 minutes max. Again, I'm just giving you a suggestion. Okay, so this is checking. And checking should be faster. Okay? So this is my suggestion, and I'm giving you the maximum 45 minutes. You can do less than that. Okay, if you can do and shape within less than 30 minutes, then you should spend still around 15 minutes for checking. Then you leave more time for your open-ended questions. Okay? Show the electricity. Okay, electricity here. Yep. How long should I spend on doing? Yeah, so one parent is asking, so I already mentioned, so doing for MCQ is around 30. Let's assuming 1 minute per question, which shouldn't be 1 minute per question. I'm just saying on average. Because there are some questions which are pretty straightforward, especially the first few ones. The first few questions are usually the easier questions. Okay, then the more intermediate questions come later. All right. So on average, roughly 1 minute per question. Is the paper very hard? This is moderate. There will be one or two questions which are harder because those are the ones that will distinguish the really AL1 students compared to the AL2 students. Okay, but generally the paper is moderate. Okay, they will not give a paper that is extremely hard. It's not going to be that way. Otherwise, every student will struggle, and then you go up into the news. Okay, that's not what the system trying to do. Okay, you make sure that everyone can still do well. Okay, but they will distinguish the AL1, AL2, and all. Okay. Okay, I talk about a tip for shading later. Okay, when I focus on the MCQ one. Right. Uh, for section B, checking for B is also 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, for section B is a bit more difficult in terms of the time management. So it really depends on what type of questions there are. Alright, because there are some questions that need to draw, some questions that you need to write a bit longer. So you could roughly, okay, you see, right, there are 10 to 11 questions for structured question, and you have, let's say, 1 hour. So let's say you could spend 40 minutes, okay, let's say 1 mark per minute, one mark per minute. So you spend 40 minutes doing the questions, and I will say 20 minutes to check. If I have 1 hour to do structured questions. Okay, so 1 hour, right? So you split 40 minutes to do the questions, 10 questions, 11 questions, and spend 20 minutes checking the questions, checking your answers. Okay? All right. That is my suggestion. Of course, you feel free to adjust. One of you asked, can I fail PSLE? It is possible to fail, but please do not make that a target, of course. Okay, please try your best as much as possible. You are not likely to fail as long as you put in your best effort. Okay? Is prelim harder than PSLE? It has a high possibility it can be harder, but do not be mistaken, right? Because the prelim paper is supposed to mimic the PSLE paper. Okay, but some schools will make it slightly more difficult so that they test students a bit more and students become more ready for the PSLE. Okay, so it can be slightly more difficult than PSLE because the schools wants to drill the students more. Is it very stressful? Okay, if you revise regularly, it will not be so stressful because you are well prepared. All right. How to study for each topic? Okay. The technique to study is really to, okay, since we are talking about this, right? The technique to study is, I'm going to teach you some of these key skills, okay, to score well. So we'll talk about each topic in a while. Right. So for science, okay, you must know that, of course, science is a conceptual subject. Okay, science is a conceptual subject. And when we learn the topics, make sure you learn them well, like what I mentioned earlier, right? Any doubts, please clear it on that day itself. You go to class, the teacher teach a new topic like energy. Okay, you must know the different form of energy, right? Kinetic energy, potential energy. If you have question, ask on that day. After the lesson, ask your teacher. Okay? You do not want to wait until the next lesson, and when you come back, actually you have forgotten what you wanted to ask. And then that's too late already. Okay? And when you have clarified all this, you may want to note them down somewhere. Okay, write down on an exercise book or note it somewhere where it's convenient for you to access and revisit some of these common misconception or regular common mistakes that you make all the time. Okay, so note that down so that when you go for exam, you can just have a quick reference. Okay? Yes, of course, science notes will work because definitely you must first master each of these concept and topics. Okay, so you must know your science concept from the science notes first before you move on to exam questions. So yes, okay. So make sure you have regular practice. Okay, like I mentioned, right, you cannot be all cramping in the last few months. Now, if you have a bit of time, start revising some of these P3 to P5 topics already. Okay, like some of you said, right, you have some topics that you feel that's challenging, you feel the most difficult. Then that is when you start. Okay? And all the mistakes that you have made before, try to record them somewhere. And when you deal with some such question again, do not make the same mistake. Okay? How long do you revise a day? Okay, depends on how much time you have. All right, some of you still have activities after school. Okay, and you have a few subjects, so you must plan your you must plan your revision. Every day, spend 1 to 2 hours mastering something. All right, if let's say okay on Monday, what are you going to do? You're going to spend 2 hours maybe writing a composition, for example. Okay, then on Tuesday, maybe you want to study a science topic and make sure you do it well for the science topic. And third Wednesday, you want to do a math topic. You want to change, you want to uh try to study different things every day. Or if you let's say you have more than 2 hours, then you can spend, let's say you have 3 hours to study. You have 3 hours of free time. You can spend 1.5 hours studying one subject, 1.5 hours studying something else. Okay? Try not to keep to one subject for too long. Otherwise, you will be quite drained out. Okay, you must change the pace a little bit. When you change the pace, it will be better. Okay. All right. So to master topic, right? Okay, in my stretcher, other than the my stretcher weekly material, we also have our own assessment book that is available. Okay, so you can ask the center staff, okay, on the information for these books. Okay, so what we have in these science key concept mastery books, okay, we have questions whereby it's really tackling all the common misconception, the important concepts for each of the topic, for P5 and P6 topics only. Okay, and we also have uh we have multiple videos. Okay, the first one being a topic review. So we go through all the main concepts for each of these topic. Okay, and then for each subsequent important question, there is also a video to try to explain the concepts for that. Okay, so you can keep a lookout for these books at the counter. Right. So I just show you. Okay. Yeah. These are some examples of questions. I don't know if you can see or not. So the top one being a recap of all the topics. Okay, it's not just going to be shown like this. Okay, there will be the video will show each of these individual parts in a large font. Okay, and there will be questions which will answer, such as why does our heart rate increases during exercise? And then the video will explain, okay, point by point. Okay. Yes, they are updated to the latest syllabus. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are no questions on cells in the book. Okay, it has been updated. Okay, one of you is asking, okay, does prelim affect your PSLE? No, it does not. Okay, prelim is for school, PSLE is the big exam, so it's not linked. Okay, so let's say you did not do well for prelim, it doesn't affect your PSLE results. Okay. So if a student finish doing and shading MCQ in 30 minutes, do you recommend? Okay, to answer your question, Angela, if you finish doing and shading MCQ in 30 minutes, you're asking if I would recommend a student to move on to structured questions, then cover the MCQ and check later. You can do that. You can do that. Okay, you can do your checking everything at one go at the end if you want to do that way. Okay, what I suggested was to do the MCQ, shade, and then check MCQ. But I leave it to you. Okay, you can do finish MCQ, you shade already. Okay, finish up your structured questions, then check the whole paper at one go. That is fine. Okay, then you will have made sure that you have completed the paper before you do one big round of checking. So that is okay. That's also a good method. Okay, that's also a good method. How can we focus to or get expertise on the keywords? I've heard that we not use keywords. Okay, for keywords, right? Okay, later I will show you in my structured materials. Actually, in our study notes at the back, we have some of these. We have the keywords used for each topic. if you refer to the study notes in my structure, okay, at the back of that study notes, we have all the list of keywords that you can use. Okay, but more importantly is really the complete understanding of the topic. Okay, and going through some of these keywords repeatedly. So when you see the question, and all these keywords can come out naturally, but you must be familiarized with some of these keywords. That's why it's important to go through that list of keywords or phrases. Okay. Okay, now let me move on to a real life application here. So just how I have told everyone here, okay, there will be a lot more relation to the real life scenario. Okay, so do make sure you try to apply science concept to everyday problems or occurrence or phenomena. Okay, because you expect new scenario, but if you have exposed yourself enough, okay, then all these are not so new anymore. All right. Which topic is tested the most? It just now I have already highlighted some of the higher weightage topics. Yeah, so those are the ones, such as reproduction in plants, such as electricity, such as water. Yeah, those are the more common ones. Okay. Will students be deducted for spelling or grammar errors? Grammar errors, no. Spelling depends on how badly it is spelled. If the examiners cannot understand the word that is spelled wrongly, and then the examiner will not give the mark. Okay, but if let's say it's a missing letter or the letter switch places and it can still be understood, then it's fine. But as much as possible, try to spell them correctly. Okay, to make sure there's no marks deducted for that. Okay, so for experiment-based question in PSLE Science, now make sure you always make some annotations on your worksheet, on your paper. Okay, you analyze the question first, you circle or underline any keywords that can help you get to the answer. But do not do it excessively. Do not go and shit every single thing and underline every single thing. Then you will not know where to focus on. Okay? Break down information when needed. Right? We have the tape. If your question has table, has graph, go and identify the trend for each of these first. Okay? Interpret all the data, diagram, graph carefully. Now, because you have done a lot of questions before the PSLE paper, now do not assume. You see one familiar question, do not assume because they can change one variable and everything else changes. Okay? So read every single question carefully. Do not jump to conclusion. Okay? Okay, I'm getting a lot of questions. Hold on, This note is important. Okay, some of these I already answered. So is checking doing after doing one section is better than doing 子倩 checking after doing one section is better than doing everything after doing everything then checking. It's really up to you. Okay, if you find that it's safer to finish all the questions already, then you do one big round of checking. That is also a very good method to do the paper. Okay? Yeah. Do you use pen or pencil? Definitely pen for normal text. If you are drawing anything, if you need to draw electric circuit, then use pencil. Pencil is only for drawing. Everything else in pen. Okay? Okay, some of you are asking for the keywords, right? Is marking still based on keywords? Will I still get marks if I miss out on keywords? Now, keywords are important because they help you phrase your answers correctly. Because if you try not to use the keyword, okay, so the thing is, they may not be marking you based on the keywords themselves, but it's important to use it because uh, it helps you phrase the answers. Without the keywords, you might get the different meaning. And there are some keywords that you must have. Like for example, it's a question on respiration to get energy, but students often miss out the term respiration. Then that's an important keyword, and there's no other way to write respiration or respire. Okay, so that is an important keyword. There are some key phrases that you may not have to write word for word. If you can explain them in your own words and clearly, and the examiner can understand, they can still give you the mark for that. Okay, but there are some keywords like photosynthesis, respiration. Those keywords needs to be written. Okay. Okay. Now, experiment-based questions are quite common in PSLE. There are some, like just like I told you, the PSLE assessments, right? Okay. They will test you on concepts. Okay, but they will also test you application. And a lot of those are experiment-based questions, which you need to use answer templates. Okay. I skipped four. What do you mean I skipped four? I'm at four, right? Okay. Right. So you need to use answer template. And in my structure, we have all these answer templates provided for you for aim, relationship, fact test, control setup. Where do you find them? You can find them at the back of the cover page. Later, I'll show everyone. Okay, we find it at the back of the cover page. Okay. So all these experiment-based questions, you must practice a lot because they are really low-hanging fruit. If you know how to phrase the answer, and then it's gonna be a breeze in the exam. Okay, but make sure you have practiced enough. There are also certain answering techniques that you can use for your open-ended questions or structured questions, such as water condensation. Okay, some of you might have learned WCLC. Okay, such as warm water vapor come into contact. Okay, warm water vapor for the first W come in contact with the cooler surface. That's the C is L. L for losing heat. Okay, and the last C for condense to form water droplets. Okay, so these are different ways that you can answer some of these questions. It doesn't work for all topics because not every topic has a fixed template. But some of these topics like water condensation, why the heart rate increases, okay, those have fixed answer templates. Okay, so you can refer to those. Right, and we'll also be teaching you some of these techniques, be it the experiment-based questions, okay, be it how to answer questions. Okay, we also teach this answering framework called AIR. AIR. A for answer, I for information, and R for reasoning. Okay, that is answering technique that we use in our worksheet also. Okay, our weekly material also have all this framework, AIR and the Triple C framework, which is a question analysis framework. Okay, later I will show everyone here. So we will also focus on all these framework and techniques, okay, in our upcoming science event. Okay, so do look up for our MyStretcher events. Okay, now coming to exam techniques that a lot of you were asking. Okay, for MCQ, right, what you need to do is because you have four options, right? If you are lucky, you have 25%. If you are not sure how to do the question, you have 25%. Okay, so always eliminate all the options, all the incorrect options. Go through all of them, make sure you have only choose the best answer. Okay, again, don't jump to conclusion. And once you are done, shade your answer immediately because you do not want to shade on the wrong question, right? If you line by line, question by question, you shade it, you are less likely to make a mistake. Okay? If you want to, you can write your answer in the question booklet. Okay, you write already, then you shade. So that later when you check, okay, you can tally whether you have shaded correctly. You have shaded correctly. Okay, because there are some cases where students do what, they write all these answers only in a question booklet. Then when they finish all that 28 or 30 question MCQs, then they shade everything in one go. And that is not the right method. Okay, we don't suggest that. Because why? When you shade 28 or 30 MCQ in one go, you are likely to shade the wrong row. And the moment you shade the wrong row, it's game over. Okay, especially if you leave it to the last 5 minutes. Okay, the stress level is extremely high. And you shade the wrong row, you need to erase everything and reshade everything. Okay, then you will be losing a lot of marks. Okay, so do one question, shade one question, do one question, shade one question. That is the suggested method. Okay, all right. Now to test everyone here, well, I check all your questions. For students here, maybe you want to try this question and let me know your answer. Okay, like I said, do not jump to conclusion. Give me your best answer. I'm gonna give you all a while. Okay, while I check the questions here. Okay, read the question carefully, yeah. Okay, I have some responses already. Great. Okay, from what I see, uh quite a number of you got it wrong already. Okay, so you want to double check your answer. What is the final answer that you have? Like I said, you may have shaded your answer, and then when you do a round of checking, maybe you spot this error. So I'm telling you that most of your answers are wrong. Double check it. This was a 2017 question. Okay, you can see it's about what is that, 9 8 9 years ago. Yeah. But it is one question that can distinguish an AL1 student and AL2 student. Okay, one of you is asking if there's a shading problem and you write in the answer booklet, do you get marks? No, they do not look at your answer booklet. Okay, or rather, I think yeah, they do not look at your answer booklet. It's only the OAS. Okay, so make sure there's no shading problem. If you need to erase your shading, make sure you erase it cleanly. Some of you were asking, is writing all the topics from the textbook helpful? I'll take it as that is writing notes because someone is also asking for is making notes important. It's good to make your own notes, okay? Because when you write your own revision notes, it is going to be helpful, okay? Because you yourself will know when you write all this out, it's going through your brain and it helps you remember, okay? And constantly writing all this, they will help you remember some of these concepts. Okay, and it also help to organize the ideas. All right, so yes, it can be helpful, but I wouldn't say it's helpful for everyone. Some of you might benefit from writing your own notes, making your own notes, doing mind maps. Okay, some of you might not. If you feel that mind maps are not useful for you, then just refer to my stretcher notes or your school notes. Try not to use gel pen. Okay, some of you are asking about gel pen. Okay, so to answer the question, yes. Okay, I don't know whether is it because I tell you all that there are a lot of you making the mistake. So nearer to the back, I see there are more correct answers, but there are still quite a number of wrong answers, huh? All right, so what is the problem here? Let's go through this question, right? There are many of you who put one. Is one correct? So let's look at option one, right? Wind is used for the dispersal of its spores. Now, it may sound like a correct option. The problem is, are there spores? Are there spores? Correct. So did you look at the diagram? Okay, the question might says that, oh, there are tiny dust-like substance from plant P. And that might have led you to spores. But if you look at the diagram, there are flowers. So if they are flowering plants, they reproduce by seeds, not spores. So one is wrong. Right, you must know that flowering plants reproduce by seeds, no spores. Okay? So there are also a number of you who put number 4. Fertilization takes place after the dust-like substances are dispersed. Now, when does fertilization occur? Fertilization takes place in the flower. How can that take place after dispersal? This one is conceptual error. Okay, number 4 is conceptual error. Fertilization takes place right after pollination. It cannot take place after dispersal. The flower is no longer there. Right? The fruit has already been formed. So fertilization must be before seed dispersal or fruit dispersal. So number 4 is out. Okay, so the only one that is correct will be 3. Its roots can absorb water droplets formed from condensation. Okay, for number 2, there's no information about the insects. There's no information about that, but we can be quite sure that number 3 can be correct because roots absorb water, yes. Okay, and water can be formed by condensation on the tree trunk. So answer is 3. Okay, so there are quite a number of you who got this wrong. So like I said, this is not a very difficult question, but it's a question that students will make mistake. Okay, so my point here is read the question carefully, analyze the diagram, analyze the question stem. They say it's a dust-like substance. Don't jump to conclusion to say that it's spore. It's not, because the diagram has flowers. Okay, next one. Okay, just showing you another question. This is quite recent, 2024. Some of you might have already seen this question before. Okay. So this one you can go and read through the question, but I will not be going through. But I'm just telling you that this question actually involves a few topics and concepts. It's like a multi-concept, what do they call it? Interconceptual, intertopical question. Okay, where they mix electricity and photosynthesis all together. Okay. Some of you very fast. You know the answer already. But I see a few answers also not correct. Okay. The answer here is 3. Okay, the answer here is 3. So you can go and this one is still in your TYS, your 3-year series. If you have bought your 3-year series, because this is from 2024, right? Your 3-year series will have 2023, 2024, 2025. Okay, so you go and figure out why the answer is 3. Okay, I will not be explaining it today. Alright, I'm just showing you examples of questions that can be quite complicated and it tests you multiple topics across different, multiple concepts across different topics. Alright. Okay, let's talk about open-ended questions. Now, open-ended questions, like I said, we have in our mind structure materials, we teach you the exam technique, the answering technique, and the question analysis framework. Okay, question analysis framework and answering framework. All right, so in our question analysis framework, we have triple C, and the first C is to identify the command word. What the question is asking you to do. Is it to state, describe, explain, or suggest? These are the 4 usual terms that they use, okay, to know what to write for your answer. Then you identify your concept. This is the second C. Identify the concept tested. Then the last one is the context. What is the question talking about? Okay, you must read the whole question carefully, know what is the context, look for clues, okay, and then plan your answer. Okay, open-ended questions, there are many forms. So some of them, okay, this is electrical system, right? So like I said, electrical system tested usually has quite a high weightage over the previous few years. Okay, so you need to practice a lot. And this was one of the more difficult question. This question has uh this question is not so easy, and some of these answers are quite long. Some of these answers are quite long. It's quite difficult to explain. Again, this is 2023, so it is still in your 3-year series. You can go and try the question. Okay, I will not be going through the question, but I have the answer. Uh, this tests you on this question. You may see that it's just electromagnet attracting this and then close the circuit, but it tests you on the brightness and arrangement of the bulbs. Okay, because if you look carefully, when this iron bar is at A, what happens? When the iron bar is at A, the closed circuit is here. This is a closed circuit where P and Q are in series. But when the iron bar is at B, it becomes just Q alone. Okay, so it tests you on the brightness of the light bulb depending on how many light bulbs are there in the path. Okay? Yeah, some of you might have done this before. You might have seen exam questions with this diagram or similar diagrams. Okay, because the schools also adapt similar questions from the PSLE. Okay? Alright, so go and try this question. This is in a 2023 paper. Quite recent. You can still find it there. Alright? So I will not be explaining the question. Okay, just showing you examples of how questions are asked. Now, this was 2020, and you can see, I think some of you might know what this is. It's probably in your freezer also, some of you. Okay, this is a packet of sausages. Okay, and this is something that we can relate to. You take your ice cream box of ice cream out of the freezer. What do you observe? Similar idea. These are sausages. You take it out of the freezer. What do we observe? We observe a thin layer of white solid. It's the same thing. Correct. Ice. Okay? So these are things that we see, but actually we never bother to go and use science to explain. But maybe now is the time to start. You see this layer of white solid. What are they? Why do they disappear after a while? Okay? That is something that you can use science to explain. And this was tested in PSLE. So if you try to use science to explain some of these questions, right, regularly, and then when you come to that question, if it happens to come out, and then you have no issues answering them. Okay? Okay, just reading through some of your questions. For true false question, if you get the first wrong, will you still get marks for the reason? It is possible you can still get marks for the second part of the answer. Okay, it's possible depending on whether you can written it correctly. Which type of pen is acceptable for PSLE? I would say that the best one is ballpoint pen. Why ballpoint pen is because so that your inks do not smudge as you write, because you do not want your answers to be unreadable. No, if the examiners cannot read it because of some smudging problem, then there's a problem. Okay, so don't use correction tape also because the correction tape can drop off. Don't use highlighter. Okay, all these are not recommended to use. All right. Is making the notes fancy better than normal notes? If you want to make the notes fancy, is really up to you. Yeah, if you make it fancy and you would like to read it, it makes you like to read it, okay, then go ahead and use it. Yes, you can use CER. You can use CER. You should bring extra pen also. Okay, you should bring extra pens because in case you want your pen fail, okay, then you have second one. Okay, yes, you can everything bring an extra one, extra pen, extra pencil. Uh, yeah, if you need, it's better to have extra. Okay, so again, my point here is not going through this question, but uh, letting you that all these things that we see and the example of wearing the mask and the spectacles get misty, then these are all real life scenario that we experience in our daily life. Okay, or let's say you leave a cold bus, extremely cold bus. When you leave the bus, immediately you cannot see anything. For those who are wearing spectacles, yeah, then that's because of this problem. Okay. So you must master the condensation questions very well. And you can see some of these answers are quite long. Okay, again, I'm not going through them, just showing you examples. 2 marks question, they can ask you to write 3 to 4 lines. And they also provide that same number of lines in the exam. Okay, whenever required. Right? So make sure you go and practice on these questions. Okay? Yes, AIR is similar to CER. Correct. So if you're more familiar with CER, go ahead and use CER, no problem. Yeah, you can use blue color pen in PSLE. If you write a long answer wrong and need more space, um, you may be able to request for a foolscap paper. Okay, but or you can write your answer in a space available and draw an arrow towards the answer. Okay? But it is possible to ask for a first foolscap paper, I feel, if I'm not wrong. Yes, use pen to write your answers, everyone. Only use pen to write your answer. Pencil is for drawing only. Okay, now, hold on, right. So some other things to take note is that okay, you master all the topics already. You have practice on the answering techniques. You have practice on experiment-based questions. And finally, when you are ready to take an exam, you must try to do timed assessment. Time assessment means that okay, you time yourself, right, 1 hour 45 minutes as though it's like a PSLE paper. How much time have you spent doing the MCQ? How much time have you spent writing doing the open questions? Then have sufficient number of these time assessments because that will help you practice on time management. Okay, because some of you when you do a paper, you are not aware of the time. Okay, you might have spent 1 hour doing the MCQ. You do it slowly, one by one, taking your own sweet time. Then you realize, hey, you have not enough time to do the open-ended questions, and that is a problem because some of the questions have very long answers. Okay, so practice enough, have a few time assessments, as many as you can, right? And try to have good time management. If it's the first time you did not have good time management, then do it a second time, a third time, and make sure you manage the time well. Okay? Always take note of the amount of time you have. All right. So we have, like I said just now earlier, some of you were asking for the test, right, or exam paper. Yes, we have mid-year checkpoint. We have a prelim exam, and you have to try to take those as though it's for the PSLE. Okay, you may not be as well prepared during the mid-year checkpoint, but like I said, if you start now, you revise all the P3 to P5 topics. Okay, by then you have a steady foundation. And if you learn your P6 topics well this year, then by mid-year, you could be around 50% ready for PSLE. 50% ready. And then the remaining time will be a lot of drills and revision. Then we have our prelim exam. Okay? Then that will really be about time, okay, a few weeks before the PSLE. Okay? Okay, some of you are asking for techniques for open-ended questions. Yeah, this one. Pencil also for shading, of course. Yes. Yeah, shading OAS, of course, use pencil. Okay, do not use pen to shade. Yes, use pencil to shade. Okay, can I go back now? Okay, let me go back to this. All right, so I have gone through some of these skills that you must master within these next 8 to 9 months. Okay, first one, concept mastery. That's a recap, right? Concept mastery. Okay, real life application. Be more exposed to what is happening around you and try to use science to explain. Observation analysis. When you see a question, what must you do? How should you analyze your questions? Okay. Experiment-based question and answer templates. Go through all the templates that MindStretcher provides you. Okay. Answering techniques. Or some of the questions in different topics, they have certain answering techniques that you can use, answer templates. Okay, refer to those. All right. And finally, exam techniques. How should you do your MCQ? How should you do your open-ended questions? Okay, how much time to cater and all. Now, this is a reference for your AL score. Okay, so as mentioned, AL1 is 90 and above. So if let's say you get 5 MCQ wrong, you are already at the border to drop to AL2. Okay, so be very careful for MCQ. Try to do MCQ first, okay, then to open the questions. Right. Now, with regard to this AL score, now if some of you, let's say, you are scoring, okay, for different people here, right, different students here, if your AL score is at a certain level, you must set a realistic target for yourself. Let's say you aren't doing so well. Let's say you're scoring AL5, 65 to 74. There's a certain thing that you must do, right? If you are scoring around here, that means that you are not so familiar with the concept. There are some gaps in your understanding. And then that is when you must go and look through all the concept, okay? And then master the topics. Okay, if you are at AL5. If you want, do a quick mind map, do a quick make your own notes if you want to. Okay. For AL3 to AL4, you are quite there, but could be that some of your answers open the questions, you are missing some keywords, okay, making some mistakes here and there, using the wrong concept to answer, or you did not read the information in the questions carefully. Okay. For those in AL1 and AL2, now you are very close to being a perfect score. Okay, it is possible to get a perfect score. Okay, and you should always be aiming for AL1 as much as possible. So go and find out what is missing in your answer. Like I said, when you do all your corrections, when you go through your mind structure weekly materials or your school questions, all your corrections are not for fun. What are the corrections for? It's really for you to know what you are missing, what you need to take note of, how can you improve in your answer. Okay, so take note of some of these corrections. It is best that you can keep a note yourself, an extra notebook, identify some of these gaps in your answer, or it could be a conceptual misunderstanding. Okay, misconception that you want to take note of. Write all of this down so that when you go for all these exams before the prelim, before the PSLE, you just need to have a quick reference to this set of materials. Instead of flipping through everything again, you just need to look at your set of uh quick notes, quick reference notes. What are the things that you should take note for your exam? Okay, like what is this misconception that I always get wrong? What is this thing that I need focus on? Things like that. Okay? Or if you have written your own notes, what are the things do you want to highlight? Okay, to help you refresh. Okay, so at different forces, at different AL score, choose a realistic target, but of course as high as possible. Okay, I have students who are in AL5 but only aiming for AL4. And like I'm saying, that's only like 10 marks. It's not possible. If you're in AL5, you should be aiming for AL2 or even better, AL1. Okay, it is possible. It's really about how much effort you put in. Okay, all right. Now I'm gonna take a pause at this moment and just show you just now what are the things that I've talked about in our materials. So I was telling everyone here that we have the answer templates. Let me just show you now. This is the answer template for experiment-based questions. Everyone can see, right? Okay, maybe I reshare again. Yeah. So this is the answer template in our answer template for experiment-based question behind the weekly materials, behind the first cover page. Okay, so we have answer template for aim, control setup, fair test, relationship. They are very helpful. So if you are not familiar with how to write some of these answers, refer to them. Okay, write it a few times, get it right. Once you have gotten it right, don't refer to them. Okay, because you have to be independent. This is just for to help you. But once you slowly get the hang of it, you should not be referring to them because you should be exam ready. In the exam, this is not provided, right? Okay, so you have to get yourself ready to answer this on your own. But this is the guide that we are providing you and make full use of that until you are ready on your own. Okay. Now, if let's say you do not want to write your own notes or you do not want to write your own mind map, okay, our materials, okay, provide a lot of all these important concepts which are bolded, okay, so you can look at them, okay, and we have identified common mistakes that students make, right? Common students always think that energy and forces they are about the same, but they are different. Okay, we highlight some of these common mistakes or misconceptions in our materials. Okay, so our materials are usually in point form, and we highlight the important things to get it right, the important misconceptions that students always make mistake with. Okay, so going through the notes, if you want to master the topic and you do not want to read the textbook because the textbook might not have everything, okay, you can refer to the mind stretcher notes. Right, and some of you were asking about the keywords, right? So let me show you at the end of the topic. Okay, at the end of the topic, we have the list of keywords and phrases. Okay, so it's all provided here. You can practice writing some of this in your answers when you do open-ended questions. All right, so you can refer to this. It's at the end of study notes of each topic. Okay, right. Then other than this, we have when we finish teaching the topic for each lesson, okay, we usually have this concept paper, that consolidate what you have learned in the lesson so far. All right, so this is it could be in different forms. It could be fill in the blanks. It could be a discussion. It could be a crossword puzzle, a word search. It's really helping you, link all the keywords and concepts together. Okay. Then for every lesson, we have a quick quiz. Okay, it's really to test how much your child has mastered, how much your child has understood for this lesson. All right. Now, remember just now I told you, other than the answering technique, okay, we also teach a few framework. Okay, this is our junior Einstein. Okay, this is the additional in-class activity, hands-on activity that is conducted in class. Okay, there are a number of them for the earlier part of P6, but subsequently there will be fewer because it will be more exam focused. Okay, so these are what were conducted already. We'll be conducting soon. This one is conducting soon. Yeah. Okay, so this is the component that we can focus on. Very important. All right. So you see, this is the apply right component. We have the triple C framework, okay, which is command word, concept, and context. Okay, which is why I already told you how to do open-ended questions. Look at the command word. What is the question asking? Is it a state? Then explain. These are the command words. So you know what you are required to write. You're supposed to state which material is the best suited for making part Q. So you tell me which material, A, B, C, or D, for example. Then you explain. So these are the common words that you must identify. Then you must know what this question is all about. What is the concept that is tested? This is on friction. Okay, when they say amount of force needed to pull the object across the surface is usually about friction. Okay, and the context, after going through the question, have you fully understood what the question is about? Okay, I know it's friction. Okay, when you have this graph, what are the relationships here? Okay, so relate that to the actual question. Which material is best suited? Relate the friction to this question. Do you need do you need the one that has more friction or less friction? Okay, so that's the context. Now, so just now some of you are talking about CER. So in my strategy, we teach it as AIR. But we leave it to you, okay? AIR is what we have. CER, maybe you learn it in school or somewhere else. All right, so use whichever that helps you score better. Okay, so A for answer, just tell me the answer. Okay, we choose material D. Information is what you can extract from the data. from the graph, from the table, whichever. Okay? And reasoning is to link everything together. So based on this information, okay, amount of pulling force was the least. This was the data. How does this relate back to your answer, which is D? So you want to choose the one that is least, so that the friction is the least, and then you will slide down the fastest. Okay, link it to what the question is asking for. All right. Okay, is force the hardest topic in P6? It's not the hardest topic. It's not. But it really depends. It really depends. I would say it's not the hardest topic. Energy and forces, they may seem to be quite difficult to understand. And I can understand that a lot of you might face difficulty for energy and forces. Okay? But if you go through a few more times, a few more weeks, you fully understand what they are asking for, then it's no longer so difficult. Okay? Remember just now I showed you the question analysis breakdown, right? The one that is tested the most or most commonly will be electricity. I would say in PSLE, that is most likely the one that is more difficult to answer. Because especially when the answer is very long. But there are some people who find that not so difficult. So it really depends on you. Okay, if you have sufficient practice for that part, then it is not that difficult. Okay, so I will find electricity being the one that is slightly confusing and in the exam requires a bit more lengthy answer. Sometimes you need to draw circuit, and some of you might struggle drawing circuits. Parallel series, you are confused. Okay, so those who find electricity difficult, okay, go and tackle on that. All right. Right. So in this component, we also highlight some of the wrong answers and some of the correct answer or wrong concept or correct concepts. So this under get it right feature. Okay. So these are very useful. Now, how this component work is that the first one is the work example. So fully guided. So the teacher will guide the students understanding what this experiment is about, what the setup is about. Okay. Then you do a question together. So this is the first review question, which is partially guided. Okay, going through all the framework again, triple C, going through the framework again, AIR, going through all these are all answering techniques, be it question analysis framework or AIR answering framework. All these are techniques that will help your that will help your child structure the answer or understand the question. Okay, and then finally the student try it themselves. Okay, answer themselves using the AIR framework. Okay, and use the triple C on their own. Okay, then we have our practice paper. Now, our practice paper are also categorized by difficulty level. So basic, intermediate, and challenging. Okay, if they are intermediate and challenging questions, depending on which week they are in. So because this week, for this set, they just started learning on forces. Okay, so most of the questions are basic. Okay, to get the firm foundation first. Okay, then subsequently there will be more intermediate and then challenging questions coming. All right. So for the intermediate and challenging questions, there will be more assistance. Okay, there will be more help. There will be more prompts to help the students. All right. Hold on, let me see any more questions. What's the highest amount stretches student got? This one I need to check the record, but definitely okay, now because PSLE is just AL1, AL2, right? So AL4 lor. AL4 will be the best already. Okay. I think MCQ is okay to speed run, right? No, I wouldn't suggest to speed run. You have to do everything properly. Will the PSLE have all the entire year thing that we learn or just some topic? Uh, there will, okay, PSLE basically everything is tested, but not every topic will be in the paper. They can choose which topic they want to test, but you don't go and choose the topic to learn because you must master all the topic because if it comes out, then you must know how to answer them. Okay? But I would say most of the topics are tested. There's only a few that are barely tested, like reproduction in animals, the reproductive system, the parts, not so crucial. Okay? All right. Yep. So Will P3 and P4 topics be revised nearer to PSLE? Yes, there will be revision, topical revisions. Where I can find these study notes? Can find them from the app. Okay, I'm not too sure about the app. Okay, but you can find it in eStudy Buddy. If you just join recently, right? If you just join recently, you should have access to the previous week worksheet. Okay, so you can search in the eStudy Buddy for the earlier weeks. Okay, but if let's say you are in the weekly class, okay, all these worksheets are in the weekly materials. Yeah. What's the P5's hardest topic? I would say is electricity. Yeah. Okay. So are there any more questions? I'm done with my slide. Okay. Finally, sorry, I still got one more thing. Hold on, final one. Okay, so it's going to be a very fast 8 to 9 months going to the PSLE. Okay, and a few things that parents can do to help. Okay, I know that it can be quite stressful in the next few months. Okay, but what parents can do is really help your child, all together help your child plan for revision. Okay, like some of you are asking, right? Okay, how much time to spend studying each day? You can help your child, decide on some of these things. Each day study what, and then they will have a more structured learning. Okay, throughout the whole 8 to 9 months remaining. Okay, so if you can also, go and revise some of these concepts with your child. Okay, and plan topical revision, then the time test. Okay, just now I told you, right? You must master the topic first, then you talk about doing a time assessment. Because if you are not ready for the exam, then doing time assessment is not going to help because you have not mastered the topics. Okay, and then finally, remember your corrections are not there for show. Corrections are meant for you to know what is the problem is the answer and how you can avoid making the same mistake. Okay, so when you try similar questions, then you should not make the same mistake because you have done your corrections. Okay, and finally, right, always have a growth mindset. And improvement is something that you can celebrate. Right? If let's say you are scoring AL5, okay, in the next test, maybe you are scoring AL3. Hey, that's a great improvement. Maybe you aimed for AL1, but you scored AL3. Right? So you have improved over time. All right, and you can have a new target, which is still your AL1. Okay, so all these improvements are things that you can celebrate. And when you celebrate, you feel more motivated to continue to work hard for the AR1. Okay, so continue to try your best. Do not give up. If you face any difficulty, talk to your teacher. Okay, you are struggling with any topics, your teacher will be there to help you. Okay, so do clear your doubts with the teachers, right? Right, so thanks everyone for joining me. Right, I hope all of you have learned something about the PSLE and how to know what are the things to take notes and how to study and how to do the exam. Okay, and are there any further questions that you need me to answer? Will my schedule provide the papers while practicing? No. My schedule will not provide the exam papers. The exam papers can be bought in the popular bookstore. And I think even your schools will ask you to buy also. Yes, so we are not providing that. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us. If there are no, okay, let me see, are there any more questions? For drawing, do we need to use ruler? For electrical systems, if you are drawing the circuit, ruler is not really a requirement, but you must draw neatly. Okay, draw neatly. What to, yeah, what to study every day, you have to plan it out. What do you need to study? Okay, go back to the slide for key skill. Okay, key skills. Okay, okay, this one. Yeah. What you need to study is really go and figure out what you need help with. Like let's say you're not so confident in a certain topic. You're not so confident in water and water cycle. Go and put that in your schedule. Okay. Then maybe for Tuesday, maybe are not so good in a topic in mathematics, then put that in your Tuesday schedule. Okay, so you have to plan your own revision. What you find is the most important to revise now. Okay, so I cannot be deciding that for you because I do not know each and every one of you. All right, so you have to know your own weakness, tackle that weakness, and not leave it to the last minute because the 8 months is gonna pass very quickly. Okay, so we have to start now in order to do very well for the PSLE. Okay, all right. So thanks everyone for joining. I know it's a Sunday, and I hope all this information are useful for all of you to prepare for the PSLE. Okay, it's always good to have expectation of what the PSLE is about. Okay, what are the topics that you want to focus on? Okay, be ready for it mentally and start planning all this revision. Okay, so please start revision. All right, thanks. If we have multiple children taking exam at different level, how do we organize their revision? Okay, wow. Um, okay, multiple children, right? So each individual will have their own should have their own plan on how to revise their work. Okay, it's not that if let's say I have three children, not that children A study today, children B study today, everyone will have their own plan on revision because they are different levels. So maybe one could be P6, one could be P3, one could be secondary maybe. Okay, so each of them should have their own revision, and maybe those that are youngest one don't need so much revision. All right. But eventually, if let's say all of them are studying together, and then there will be less stress because everyone is everyone is the same. So they can help to motivate each other. That's how I would see it, lah. Okay. For each individual one, I would say there should be a revision plan for each child. Okay, depend on which level it is. Let's say if your child is P3, right? Then okay, maybe you don't need the revision plan so early. Right? Because I mean, P3 just started learning science. All right, so you could start from mid-year, not so early. So depend on the level. How to revise before PSLE? Now, before PSLE, okay, like I said just now, have a quick revision notebook on your own. Okay, go through some of the important mistakes that you have made before and convince yourself that actually I know how to do it now. Okay, because it's already the last day before exam. Continuously doing all these papers are not going to help already because it's the last day. All the papers should have been done days before, weeks before, months before the paper. Okay, so the last day before is really to have a final mental preparation. Okay, final recap of some of the mistakes that you have made, and just be mentally ready. Get enough rest, drink enough water, sleep early. There's no need to cram more things already. Okay, it's already the last day. Right? So that is how you prepare for the PSLE on the last day. Okay? Do not go and do more exam papers. It's not going to help on the last day. Okay? All right. I think which topic is slightly more tested? Slightly more tested will be okay. Just now I already showed the breakdown, right? Okay, I go back to the breakdown again. I go back to the breakdown again. The more commonly tested one again is electricity, energy, water, reproduction in plants. Okay, let me find that slide again. Okay, here, right? So you see forces, okay, average 10 marks. Okay, so these are more commonly tested one. A lot of them are in P5 and P6, okay, because lower block only 30%, right? Okay, electricity, heat is P4, all right? And energy is P6. And then we have reproduction in plants, water, both are in P5, right? Yeah, so these are topics that you should focus on. All right. So once again, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. Okay. If there are no further questions, then that's all for today's session. Thanks again for joining us and really all the best for the subsequent for the PSLE. But what is most important is to start planning for your revisions. Okay? Thank you, everyone.